What's good, boys? 4th and 1, Week 14 fantasy football update. Zelda's favorite team here, featuring Baby Zelda. Say what up, Baby Zelda. And I'm going to play a little bit of her favorite music. Play some Hateno Village music in the background. She likes Hateno Village. It's her favorite spot. It's actually where Zelda and Link live in Tears of the Kingdom. Yes, they live together. Say what up, baby girl. We'll turn this down a little bit. In case y'all didn't know, Nintendo made a music app where like you can play songs from like the actual games and shit now. So like that's pretty freaking cool. You need an NSO membership, which I think probably only Jordan has. Something tells me Mark doesn't, unless he figured out how to get some like jailbroken Nintendo Switch Online account or some shit. We'll turn that down a little bit, but I like the ambience of the Hateno Village music for any of y'all joggers who have played Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. But we want to do a little video update here and kind of just run through the scenarios. I kind of just did it real quick here in the last 10 minutes, so if it's inaccurate, then you can yell at me, whatever, I don't care. But I kind of wanted to go over this week's matchups and the standings overall as a whole. So let's start with the standings overall as a whole here and kind of just determine who clinched a spot and who's kind of still in the running. She just knocked something over in the background here. We're at my in-laws' house doing like a Christmas dinner here because on a personal update. What are you doing back there? My father-in-law's got a bunch of snowmobile equipment back here and I think she's knocking it off. Jesus Christ, Zelda. Yeah, on a personal update, we're doing Christmas at my in-laws this weekend because we're getting a puppy next weekend and she won't be vaccinated. We can't really take her any places. And the kittens are getting their little... they're getting their spayed and neutered. So Link's getting his balls cut off. Zelda's getting, I don't know, her tubes tied or whatever the fuck they do as a part of that surgery. So we're not going to be able to have a normal Christmas with my family or Jamie's family around Christmas time this year. But you guys don't give a fuck about that. So let's just go over the standings as usual here. Okay, we're going to start at the top. Having his best season on record, this Billion, all you need is love. La 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 yo. You're currently at 10-3. I really like your team. I think this is the best team you've ever put together on paper. I want to take a look at just your fantasy schedule here real quick because I know you're going to have to make some difficult decisions between starting... How the fuck did you get... You see that over my shoulder there? She managed to jump up to the top of the desk that's over there, and hopefully she didn't fuck with the router so I can actually get this thing uploaded afterwards. Billion, you got some decisions to make at the quarterback position, and that's probably going to be a main determining factor on how your team is going to perform during the playoffs is who you choose to decide to start, either Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield. So in Week 15, I would probably start Jordan Love. In Week 16, Jordan Love plays New Orleans. Baker Mayfield plays Dallas on Sunday Night Football. That'll be a tough decision. I'm not going to tell you which way to go there because I'll give you Week 15 advice, but not Week 16 and 17 because there's odds I could be playing you in either of those weeks. And then Jordan Love plays Minnesota in Week 17, and Baker Mayfield plays Carolina, which I bet you can make your own decision on who to start there. But this is your best season on record. You obviously got Justin Jefferson, who I'm absolutely enamored with. I think he's the best receiver in the NFL. And you have Derrick Henry, who in a high-powered Baltimore Ravens offense is able to actually get some touches in the red zone and punch in a touchdown basically every week. But he's going to lose the rushing title to my boy Saquon Barkley. So Billion, all you need is love is number one. Pete, we are so back. We are so done. We are so back. This is one of your best regular seasons on record. I know you've made it far into the playoffs a couple times, including losing last year's championship to yours truly. You got a decent team, but I don't feel like you're peaking at the right time. I feel like you peaked early in the season. I think there's a chance that Cincinnati maybe doesn't shut down Joe Burrow, but takes away some reps in the passing game late in the season, especially if they lose this week. They play Dallas this week, so that's not likely, but I don't know how effective he's going to be in the playoffs. Jaden Reed was a complete zero for you this week, but I think he's still a stud. You have the best tight end in the league. Tight end one in fantasy. I don't know if George Kittle's the number one tight end in all of the NFL. That's a conversation for another day. And Puka Nacua is a stud for a Los Angeles Rams team trying to make the playoffs. So you do have some guys to be scared of, but I'm not scared of your team. I would love to play you in the playoffs. Not worried at all. In third position right now is Zelda's favorite team. She's around here somewhere. Currently in a box. You know, these kittens, they're only in a house, but their world is so big, and they just love exploring, and I love her to death. So I want to get her this championship as a Christmas present to her, not to me. Lol, yo. I know I got some difficult quarterback decisions to make now and into the playoffs. Let's go back to Hateno Village here. I like that song better. So I actually got a fun stat for you. So there's been 12 weeks this season where Kyler and Jaden Daniels have been available to me to choose between the two of them. I've only chose the right quarterback 5 out of those 12 times. So I think that is my most difficult challenge going forward in the playoffs, is figuring out who's going to start, because I feel like both have favorable matchups, but I may just fuck up and choose the wrong guy. Like, who knows, right? DK Metcalf finally doesn't have a Q beside his name, but obviously he will at each of the 3 playoff weeks, which will piss me off and make this decision hard. But luckily we got his backup, Jackson Smith and Jigger, who's been an absolute second-year breakout stud this year, so I'm very happy to have him. And of course, my roster isn't complete without having the best player in fantasy football this year, the best draft pick. Frankly, I can't believe you idiots let me get him with the 12th, 13th pick there around the turn. So Saquon Barkley is an absolute stud. He's probably not going to break the rushing record, but I feel like he will have the 2,000 yards. He only needs 500 yards. Yeah, 500 yards in 5 games to get 2,000, or about 600 yards in 5 games to break the overall record. I feel like the Eagles may be so far ahead that they may just like shut him down late in the season, so that's kind of something I'm worried about, but he's been an absolute stud. And again, I can't believe you idiots let me scoop him up with the 12th pick. It was just so obvious, right? High-powered offense, a guy in the prime of his career behind a superstar offensive line, new play caller who's definitely pro offense and wants to really get the ball moving out there, and Kellen Moore. It was just so obvious. I can't believe you guys thought someone like Breece Hall would be a better pick than Saquon Barkley. Just like fucking use your brains. I can't believe he dropped that far. And then lastly, we want to give a big shout out to the Oregon Ducks. My boy Dylan Gabriel and the Ducks are first place in the college football playoff rankings right now, and we're going to take home a championship. Fuck you, Michigan. Fuck you, Mike Janassi and your Michigan Wolverines. You ain't running it back this year. We're taking the crowd. Next, Tyreek and Destroy at 8-5. So Dom, you have the same record as me, but I have more points for. Your team, again, you got scary players on paper, like Pat Mahomes. Again, on paper, that offense definitely hasn't been the same this year. Sorry about that. Quick pause. Pat Mahomes, scary on paper, hasn't been an explosive offense this year, so I'd probably love to play him against him in the playoffs. Ty Hill, scary on paper, but he's like the third option in that offense. They throw to Jonnu Smith first, Devin Achane second, and then maybe Tyreek Hill, and then maybe Jalen Waddle. But it always seems like fuckers like Braxton Berrios or that Washington kid, they end up getting the ball more for some reason. I don't understand why they paid Ty Hill and Jalen Waddle. They don't fucking use those guys. Jerry Jeudy scares the shit out of me. 230 yards last week, an absolute stud. I don't know how much that keeps up because Jameis is so hit or miss week on week, but he could be scary. Josh Jacobs, I love Josh Jacobs. I kind of knew in my head that if Saquon and or Jonathan Taylor wasn't there at the end of the first round, you guys may not believe me, but I really wanted Josh Jacobs in that spot. I probably should have taken him over Jonathan Taylor because he's been a bit of a bust this year. Consistent volume. Jonathan Taylor gets 20 to 25 touches a game, but he's been a bit of a bust from a breakout top 10 running back perspective. Alvin Kamara, could he be shut down at the end of the year? Maybe. And then the rest of your guys don't fully scare me unless Jameson Williams gets like a random. He's one of those boomer bust guys who he could get a 60-yard touchdown and ruin your day, or fucking one catch for nothing. So, and there's no one on your bench I'm really concerned about. Okay, so Dom, you're off the list, and now we get to the important part here. So who is actually in the running? I'm gonna kind of just go over all the teams in the running here and kind of run through their rosters real quick as well. So from spots 5 through 10 are still eligible to make the playoffs or be eliminated. So that would be Chase the Sun God, Adam Zampieri, Mix in a Lamb and Let It Cook, Mark Chiaffi, Wick My Chub Till It Hurts, D Nuds, Who's Drunk or Who's D-Unk, I preferred more. That's John Palmieri. Dead Presidents, stupid fucking name, Dan Candilis. And a very unlikely, very, 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 let me put one more very unlikely scenario that Mike Janassi makes the playoffs as the 10th spot. I'll kind of go from 10 back up to 5 here. I just made some really rough notes. If I'm wrong, suck my dick. I don't care. Mike Janassi, you are currently 5-8, so you need everyone above you to lose, which is not going to happen, first off. And then you also need to outscore the person in 8th place by about 300 points, because you're just so far behind in points for that you're not going to overtake whoever's in 8th place to overtake them. It's basically impossible at this point. So I'm putting you in the eliminated category, even though you do have a possible chance at making it. To quickly go over your roster, let me switch back the music to Hateno Village here. Mike, how has this season gone for you? Well, first off, obviously Breece Hall's not the guy. I think Breece Hall is a stud, but just Aaron Rodgers and that entire offense has been just a complete enigma. Rodgers' new Netflix documentary. And that's really limited Breece Hall's ability to be a relevant fantasy player, and it kind of sucks because he's built like an RB1 stud. And frankly, I don't even know how you got to 5 wins looking up and down your roster. Like, what the fuck are you doing starting Cooper Rush this week? Are you kidding me? There's literally no one else better. CJ Stroud, second-year slump. Fucking, you got guys like Alexander Madison on your roster. Chris Olave, he's not coming back. Just cut him. What are you doing? This Nick Westbrook-Akine, fun stats about Nick Westbrook-Akine here. He has 20 catches so far on the season. He has 8 touchdowns. Just take that in for a second. For every 2.5 times he catches the ball, he scores a touchdown. It's actually unbelievable. Kareem Hunt's no longer a starting running back. DeAndre Swift, he's on like the do not trust list. I can't believe you drafted him in the first place. That's crazy. But yeah, you're not going to make the playoffs and you're going to be in the Sacco Bowl, but don't worry, we don't do a fucking punishment anyways. In 9th spot, and frankly, Dan Candilis, you control what happens above you. If you lose, everyone above you is in. Even if John, because John and Chaffee play each other, which is a very important game. But even if either of those guys lose, they can still make the playoffs depending on what happens in our game against each other, because you have so little points scored. There's only one very small scenario where if Chaffee and John lose, that you can actually overtake them, and that's if you outscore either Mark or John. So let me just take a look here real quick. John's got... Okay, so there is a small scenario here of about 40 points, where if you outscore John by 40 points and he loses, you're into the playoffs. Mark, about 60 points. So there's a scenario where if Mark loses and you outscore him by 60 points, you're in the playoffs. I'm going to call both of those very unlikely, especially looking at your roster this week. Every team has the same amount of buys, so I don't want to hear any Lamar Jackson excuse bullshit. You got 13 weeks out of him earlier in the season. So just because he's not here this week and you may not score a bunch of points, that doesn't mean you couldn't have scored 13 weeks worth of points, just like every other player on all of our rosters throughout the regular season. So you have a low points for, but again, you got to focus on winning this week. That's what you need to do. If you want to get into the playoffs, you got to beat me. Specifically looking at our matchup here, you do not have a kicker in place right now. Just cut Justin Tucker. Just cut him. Wild take. I know a lot of people think he's the greatest kicker of all time. Just cut him. I picked up Nick Folk off the waiver wire this week. He's going to have 3 field goals and 2 extra points. He's better than Justin Tucker at this moment in time. Just cut him. Pick up someone, please. I don't want to have to... I'm going to be on the road at around 11 o'clock tomorrow. I'm not going to have an opportunity to pick up a kicker for you. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to pick up a kicker and don't just blow this game. But then at the same time, you're likely not making the playoffs anyway. So if you don't start a kicker, I'm not going to fucking cry about it. And I'm sure no one else above you is going to cry as well. Who's Dunk? John Palmieri. Let's pull open your team here and kind of just go over your scenario. So you're a winning in or a Dan loss, or Dan lost by less than, as I stated earlier, you outscore him by 40 points or more. Your team is just beat up. I don't like drafting 3 tight ends. I can't believe you drafted Kyle Pitts and you've kept him for this long. If there's one lesson I learned about my championship season last year and all the injuries we had and how I was easily the waiver wire warrior of the season, guys who aren't performing, just cut them, you know? Michael Lombardi likes to say, if a guy's willing to tell you who he is, believe him. If Kyle Pitts is an inconsistent piece of shit with 1 or 2 good weeks every season, but the Falcons keep playing him because he was a top 5 pick, believe the guy. He's not good. Some of that's probably Kirk Cousins related, but he's not good. It sucks that you had an injury over to J.K. Dobbins. Again, the guy's on IR. He missed last week and he'll miss the next 3 weeks. So if you're holding J.K. Dobbins for the championship, I don't know what you're doing. Just cut him. I can't believe you're starting Quentin Johnson in a must-win game. That's absolutely hilarious. Garrett Wilson's been a bust for you. Brock Purdy is a decent player, but his weapons have been compromised. We know he's dependent on his studs and Kyle Shanahan there. I just look at your roster and I think it's complete laughable. And even if you do make the playoffs, I can't wait to play you in a 3-6 matchup. That's probably my dream matchup in the first round, is if it's me versus you in the 3-6. But we'll see. Tack, as they say. Wick my Chubb till it hurts. Huge turnaround. This is the team I do not want to play in the first round of the playoffs because I legitimately think Danny has a championship run in him. This roster is very good. You got guys I love. I tried to get George Pickens from you all season long. You're a son of a bitch not letting me. Your playoff scenario is basically the same thing. You're winning in or Dan loss. And same as Mark and Chaffee, even if you do lose, you have like how many points above Candelas? Yeah, you have about, 43 points above Candelas. So even if you both lose, you're still likely to get in over Candelas. But getting back to your team, I really like your team. Jalen Hurts, not a lot of people know this, probably only Danny knows this, but I tried to get Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown off you at the beginning of the year for, I believe it was Jonathan Taylor, Jalen Waddle, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. And I think I was throwing in Kyler Murray to give you a quarterback as well. Kind of an even trade, a little bit of both. Okay, sorry about that. I forget where I am. Danny and I tried to make a big trade before the season. Would have been pretty even though A.J. Brown missed a big chunk of time, but that would have made me better for the playoffs. Danny, your team's stacked. You're the team that's going to make a championship run here, and I don't want to play you in the first round of the playoffs. I'd much prefer to just meet you in the championship game. A.J. Brown, Najee Harris, who is game script dependent, Devon Achane, and Jonnu Smith. You have the number 1 and 2 option in a team that's racing to get into the playoffs and are going to be throwing the ball around the yard the rest of the season. I love Nick Chubb. Kyron Williams, fuck, that was a bad bet on me, thinking he was going to get injured and then Blake Corum would take his job. Blake the Great, he's been a pretty good player for you. And your depth is pretty decent as well. And you got the Eagles defense. I like what you did there with the Eagles, Bills, and Baltimore defenses there. I kind of tried to do the same thing earlier, but couldn't find any good options on the waiver wire. Thanks, Jordan. Picking up every fucking defense you can. You got a good team. We'll see you in the championship game, D-Nuds. But first, you got to win to get in and outscore Candelas by about 45-ish points or so. Mix in a lamb and let it cook. Mark Chaffee, let's go, buddy. You got to have a big week as well. I think I pointed out earlier, even if you lose, you got to outscore Candilis by about 60 points. But again, control your own destiny when you're in. Your team, again, I would love to play in the playoffs. You're starting a fucking jogger named Sincere McCormick in a must-win game. Like, that's crazy. CeeDee Lamb may get shut down at some point in the playoffs. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I can't believe you're starting him. He's crazy. But the best player on your team is easily Brock Bowers. You have the tight end one on your roster. I tried to get Brock Bowers before the season from you too, so good on you for declining my trade. You got a decent team. You have some pieces, but ultimately no one I'm really scared of, unless it's Joe Mixon in a positive running game script like he had a couple weeks ago against the Cowboys. At this moment in time, I would be playing you in the first round of the playoffs, and I kind of want to keep it that way. I'll see you there, Mark. In fifth place here, Chase the Sun God, Adam Zampieri. So your scenario again is winning you're in. Because you have the most points for, you basically just need to outscore either John or Chaffee or Danny or Candilis if they all lose. So it's tough to say you've clinched the playoffs because it's not true, but you've basically clinched the playoffs unless everyone below you wins and John or Chaffee, whoever loses that game, outscores you. Let's switch back to Tano Village music. So let's just look at how many points. So you have 1749 points for. Chaffee's got 1657 and John's got 1635. You're in the playoffs. Neither of these guys are scoring 100 points more than you this week. So Zamps, I'll see you in the playoffs. I can't say you're in fully, but you are going to be in the playoffs. So those are the contenders to either be eliminated or make the playoffs. And then there's two teams that are 100% eliminated. Jordan, you've had insane bad luck this year. L2 play fantasy defense, loser. I'm just going to pull it up here. So points allowed. You've allowed 1,780 points allowed. Who's the next closest team? The next closest team is Mark Chaffee. He's got an argument too. 1,766 points allowed. So just a little bit less than you, but yours has been consistent where every week you're putting up 150 points and the guy you're playing is putting up 155. And it's been hilarious to watch, but I know you're very frustrated and you take this very seriously. So don't be mad at me, but it's just funny, buddy. It's funny. Your team is good on paper. You got some dudes. Malik Neighbors, I think that guy is going to be like an absolute stud. It kind of depends on who the Giants draft this year. If they get I like Shedeur Sanders. He's the guy I believe in. If he goes to the Giants, watch out because him and Malik Neighbors are going to be a problem. Josh Allen's probably the league MVP. Cooper Kupp's had some injuries. You have Sonic and Knuckles there. I can't believe you trade raped me, DK Metcalf, for David Montgomery. It didn't feel like trade rape at the time. Metcalf was like second or third in the league in receiving yards, and I thought this was his breakout season. He's eligible for a contract extension, but nope, David Montgomery keeps scoring a touchdown every fucking week, and I knew that would happen. I made that play with my heart, not my head, so if I lose in the coming weeks because I start DK and in my flex and Montgomery has 2 touchdowns in the championship week or something, I'm just going to kill myself, so whatever. You got Bucky Irving, who's an absolute stud. Like, I wouldn't want to play your team in the playoffs. I wouldn't. But I don't have to worry about that because we don't do some fun rule where if you had the most points scored or the best net margin or something like that, you automatically make the playoffs over someone else. I've been spitting around an idea like that for future years because I was talking to my buddy at work, and he's got a system like that where basically all the teams that are in the playoffs 1 through 7 are in the playoffs, and teams 8 through 12, I guess in this instance, whoever's got the most points for takes the 8th spot, even if the guy in 8th place has the better record. So I want to see if that's something to do on Yahoo, because I seriously want to propose that going forward, because you deserve to be in the playoffs. Like, this is a playoff championship run type roster. Outside of the fucking 6 defenses you picked up, you fucking piece of shit. That's a scumbag thing to do, but I'm gonna allow it because it's actually funny and whatever. Tack. Ball So Hard University, Matt. I know you don't have Facebook and you're not gonna see this video because I'm probably gonna post it to Facebook first. But yeah, your season was over the minute the draft started and you took Christian McCaffrey. You weren't even in the room, so you couldn't even send him your positive energy. At that point, we had not heard of any calf tightness or Achilles tendonitis in both legs. Like, fuck. This is why I don't like doing the draft so early. But then at the same time, it's like he could have been just an absolute stud RB1 in another universe, and just fucking fantasy football. It sucks. It fucking sucks sometimes. Nuck Hopkins is not a legitimate fantasy player. Justin Herbert's not. Keenan Allen's the third option on that team. Sam Laporta regressed heavily. Fuck, like the best player on your roster may have been like Drake London or Ramondre Stevenson. Like it's an absolute joke, despite you having some depth. Just not your year, fam. I know you're really good at fantasy football and you'll be back in the playoff mixture next season. It was just not your luck this year. So we've kind of gone over all the rankings. I just want to quickly look at this week's matchups here. So Zelda's favorite team, she's now out of this room. I don't know where she went. I'm playing Candilis. I think that is a huge game for playoff rankings. Dan, if you lose, then what the standings are right now are basically set outside of some points for and stuff. Adam versus Dom. That's already a high scoring game. Shit, Goff had a good game, but Dom had Josh Jacobs, so that's pretty godly. Who cares? That game doesn't matter. Hiroshima versus We Are So Back. I don't know. I wouldn't mind being the 2 seed because I think Danny's gonna beat Billy on this week, and I kind of want to avoid Danny there. So Jordan, if you can beat Pete, I'll beat Candilis, and then I'll pass over Pete. That would be ideal. Change it back to Hateno Village one more time. Let's see here. Ball So Hard versus Breesword. That game means nothing. Just don't even watch football this week. Go see your family or something. Mike, hang out with little baby Vinny and Eliana. You don't need to give a fuck about this week. Mixing a Lamb and Who's Drunk. Surprisingly big game. Neither team has had a player play yet this week. And John is projected to win. Brock Purdy versus Chicago. That's going to be an interesting game. There could be some new coach theory in there where the Chicago Bears actually show up this week and make Brock Purdy's life a living hell with no McCaffrey, no Ayuk. Debo's a fucking pussy who's always injured, and George Kittle is not a pussy, but he's always injured. Trent Williams, my heart goes out to Trent Williams and his family. They lost a kid while the wife was pregnant with him, so I don't think he's going to be playing this week. That sucks for him. So could be tough sledding for Brock Purdy, and he probably controls your destiny this week. He's got to hook up with Juwan Jennings for at least one touchdown for you to feel confident about your victory this week. So we'll see. But anyways, that's the update. So I know this is coming in a bit late, and you guys are probably mad at me that I've only done this one review of league standings before playoffs. I'll probably try and do something before the championship, and then maybe a celebration championship after I take it all for the 5th time. With no Jordan in the playoffs and Kevin not existing in our league anymore, I'm going to retain the title for most championships for one more season. It's guaranteed right now. But yeah, it's been fun playing fantasy football. I don't know if I'm going to do this again next year. You guys probably think I'm full of shit, but like I care too much sometimes, and it fucking like ruins my ability to sleep, and I get so angry on Sundays, and I let any losses control the rest of my week going forward until I win again. This is a fucking unhealthy habit, but I'll probably end up playing again because I love you guys, and it's all about connecting with the boys. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Zelda's favorite team, gonna take home another championship. Love my baby girl, love my baby boy, and we got baby Isabel on the way too, so I'll talk to you guys later. Time to get this shit uploaded. Best of luck in week 14, guys. Peace out.